evening with Mr. Carroll Dashiell. Welcome.
Thank you so much. And first of all, I'd like to thank Liz for asking me, and thank you guys for having me and coming in on this wonderful evening and sitting here and listening to me babble for a couple minutes. Really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys, and I feel very blessed and very fortunate. It is a privilege and an honor to be able to come before you and just talk. I've been at ECU now for 26 plus years, and it's been a journey. It's been interesting. It's been challenging. It's been difficult. All of that you can think of. It has run the full gamut, and I thoroughly enjoyed my time here, and still enjoy my time. One of the things that I try to stress to my colleagues that are professors and administrators and so forth and so on, that the reason why we all are here is because of you guys, the students. And that's my focal point, and that's the most important thing to me is the student. And you know, I think along those lines, for me, what we all have to have is passion. And I had wonderful hosts for dinner this evening, and we talked and we got to know each other, which was really, really wonderful. And one of the things that I talked about very briefly was passion. I think you have to be passionate about whatever your field is going to be, whatever you choose to do. I mean, if you're going to throw the football, be passionate about it. If you're going to write the next chemical solution for everything, be passionate about it. If you can do that, then you will never have what is considered a job. It's always going to be a job, but it won't be. You'll have a good time, and you continue to grow, and the journey never ends. I like everything to be pretty much informal. So after dinner, I told the guys, I said, you know what? I had a tie that I was going to put on, but I'm not going to put the tie on, so now the jacket's gone too. So, you know, before I tell you a little bit about some of the things that I've done, I know we're talking about leadership, and we're talking about honors college, and we're talking about that life experience. But before I even start in on some of the things, I'd like to ask you guys a question. Do you have any questions for me? Just looking at me here, do you have any questions? Good. That was really, really, really quick. That was wonderful. I love that. So no one wants to know, how did I grow to be this size? That's politically correct to ask me. Say, man, how did you get to be that big? You know? Yes.
What's that thing right there?
Oh, this is actually just a microphone. Is it working? Okay, well, it's not. I talk loud anyway, so it's good. But yeah, any other questions? Yes. How long have I been playing? I've been playing since the first grade, as we were talking about a little earlier at dinner. And ironically enough, and I said I was going to bring this up for you this evening, we had a violist who actually was going to host the dinner. And ironically enough, my very first instrument was the viola. I started out with the viola. Unfortunately or fortunately, however you want to look at it, I grew to this size that I am now, really about the 4th grade. And it's no lie, that's just a true story. And when I went home for summer, in between school sessions in the 4th grade and the 5th grade, I got this way. And when I came back into school, my orchestra teacher said, you know, Carroll, we're going to move you to the string bass. And the reason we're moving you to the string bass is because you're the only one large enough to bring it from the 3rd floor storeroom. And I said, okay, cool, that's fine. You know, now I enjoyed playing the viola, everything was good. And then I started playing violin, everything was good, everything was cool. But somewhere around that time in the 4th grade, I don't know, you guys probably don't even have this anymore. Safety patrols, do you guys remember anything like that? Safety patrols, we had the little belts and everything, you know, which was cool. I grew up in DC, so the safety patrol in DC had somewhat of a different job because we actually had to go stand on the corners And we actually would stand there and we'd say, look, you know, we had to stop, you can't cross now, and then okay, come on and cross. You know, but there was a crossing guard there, but we pretty much had control of the corners. And we had stations all around. And there's probably, I would say probably realistically in about a 10 block circumference around the school. And what was cool about that, we had all the different ranks. We had captains, co-captain, lieutenants, sergeants, corporals, and privates. And when I started out in patrols, I was a private. So I was on the corner, so I had to stand there. And then, you know, in the rain and everything. We had raincoats, we had rain gear, we had plastic for our belts, we had badges, the whole thing. You know, it was really cool. But the one thing about that, because I was the safety patrol on the corner, I had to carry my viola and my violin with me on the corner. That wasn't cool for me. I said, man, I don't really want to carry that every day and carry it home. So when the teacher asked me about changing the bass, I said, oh, this is cool because that means I don't have to carry the bass because mom and dad are going to have to carry me in the morning to take the bass in and pick me up with the bass. So then I was able to just stand there and look cool with my safety patrol belt on. Everything was cool. It was good. I became very passionate about safety patrols. You know, like you guys sometimes you say, man, we got Joe Jock here. Well, I was Joe Safety Patrol man, you know. So I was, you know, I'd roll my belt up, man, put it on my belt, walk around. So I had my badge a certain way on the belt. You know, when I walked around the building, you know, I never took it off. You know, so it was cool. So anyway, long story short, we had this thing called Officer Training Camp, which was a summer program that the mayor at the time decided that he was going to have these programs for the inner city youth, because I grew up in the inner city youth to participate in. So I went, I was selected and went to officer training camp, and I scored the highest score ever in Washington, D.C. I had 100% on my exam. So then I came back, so now I'm in the 5th grade and I'm the captain of patrols, you know, so this was very cool. I had a blue badge and everything was really cool. And so I became very passionate about it, studied and did all of that. But when the teacher asked me to play bass, I said, well, you know, that's a different instrument. You know, I've been playing viola, I've been playing violin, and everything is cool. But the bass has a different thing. And I, you know, seen TV and watched TV, everything was good. And I saw that you know, it's an orchestral instrument essentially, but it's also a jazz instrument. And where we're used to seeing in the orchestra playing with bow, we call that arco. In jazz, you play pizzicato, where you're playing with your fingers. So I was like, I really want to learn how to play this. And I want to do the best I can with this. I want to be the best bass player. So I went home and I told my parents, I said, Mom, Dad, I want to be the best bass player ever. I want to learn as much as I can about this instrument. And they said, okay, that's cool. And there was a program in DC called the DC Youth Orchestra. And they signed me up for that program, and I went in that program, and I spent all of my years from that point on in music. Now, when I was graduating, we graduated from elementary school in the 6th grade in DC at that time, not the 5th grade, and some places the 4th grade now, but it was the 6th grade. And we had this thing where we have it in the state here, we call it all state, all county, you know, and all that, but we call it all city, the citywide orchestra. And so I made the orchestra in my senior year in elementary school. And but as we were talking earlier about reading the different clefs of music, because I had played violin, which was treble clef, and I had played viola, which was alto clef, I didn't really know how to read bass clef. But my teacher wrote all my music for me, first finger G string or first finger first string. And that's how I made the orchestra. And I really got into it and started studying and really learning the music. And then my parents got me in that DC Youth Orchestra program. And I spent the time in that from junior high school, well, middle school, which was the 7th grade at the time, all the way through high school. And eventually went back and did some teaching at the program and so forth and so on. It was a very, very worthwhile experience. I come back to that word passion because I didn't know what I was doing at the time. I was just like really excited. So I guess you can equate passion to excitement. If you get excited about what you're doing, then you'll really enjoy it. I got so passionate about it, I said I want to learn everything I possibly can. So got in the program and I started studying and I started taking private lessons. And I grew up in inner city DC, as I said, as an inner city youth. Now, in addition to being involved in music, when you look at me now, what you're doing is you're looking at a statistic. Now, I don't know if it's a good statistic or a bad statistic, but I'm really not supposed to be here in front of you right now. When I grew up in the area that I grew up in DC, I'll just go down a slight list now of several people in my neighborhood. The Washington brothers, there's 4 of them, all dead by 18, shot. Okay, Kelly, 2 doors up, set away for life at 19. James, 3 doors down, shot, paralyzed. Now, I could go on about the neighborhood that I grew up in, but the thing is, one of those bullets or one of those incidents could have been for me, could have had my name on it. But because I was passionate about this music, on Saturday mornings, when these guys were hanging out, and we did the same thing. You know, we played football, we played basketball, we had the rec center and all of that. We did the same things that we do today. But on Saturday mornings, when the game was over, it was Saturday afternoon, the game was over, I was dealing with my music. I was studying Bach and Beethoven. I was studying Duke Ellington and Count Basie. You know, and I didn't know. I was just excited about it. So my teacher turned me on. I was excited. Oh, this is cool. You know, me and my safety patrol badge. You know, I'm just having a good time. And I'm studying this music. But like I said, one of those bullets or one of those incidents could have been for me. I'm not supposed to be here, you know, or I am supposed to be here just so I can talk to you guys. And I want to encourage you guys. I want to challenge you guys because I want you to become passionate. If you're not, I think you are because of the program that you're in. But I really want to challenge you to become even more passionate about what it is that you are doing and enjoy it because it does not stay or remain a job at that time. Once you really find that passion. You know, how many people are aspiring to be doctors? Okay, that's good. Surgeons. Brain surgeons. Got one. Okay, cool. So now check this out. For me, when I come to you, because you want to be the brain surgeon, God forbid, or whatever higher being you believe in, forbid that I have to come to you for surgery. But if I come to you for surgery, I want you to be passionate about it. I want you to know every single flipped thing about my brain when you start cutting and dissecting. I don't want you to get in there and then all of a sudden say, now should I use a spoon over here or should I use a scalpel? I don't want that, you know. And I tell my students that in music. I don't want you to just come and learn half of the song. I want you to know the entire song. I want you to learn everything you possibly can about it because you never know what you might have. You might get in my brain and all of a sudden you see, okay, that's supposed to be a D7 as opposed to a G7. But I want you to know that and say, okay, I can adopt and I can adapt and I can go in and I can fix this. I don't want that other surgery, okay? And I think that goes back to being passionate, being very, very passionate about what you do and excited, you know, and we have to maintain that excitement. The other thing that I would say to you guys now, I'll challenge you, is to enjoy your time while you're in college, okay? Enjoy your time and also really pay close attention to your professors, to your mentors. And the reason I say that is, first of all, this is probably the best time in your life that you have. This is the most time that you will ever have in your life. You think that you're busy now in the classes that you're taking now, but wait till you get married, wait till you have the baby, wait till you go to grad school. Grad school is a whole other beast, believe me, because you end up doing the work that the teachers or the professors either can't do or don't want to do, and you get it, okay? So enjoy this time now. Take advantage of your professors. Get that knowledge from them because you have the most amount of time that you'll ever have now. And this time is when you're building your foundation. If you build your foundation with this passion and this excitement, then that foundation is going to be strong. Okay? You know, this desk is sitting here now, and everything is cool, but this stuff up here on top would topple over if the legs were not strong. If the floor was not strong, then everything would topple over. So get the foundation now. And the thing is, sometimes what we do as students, well, just as humans, we say, well, I'll put that off for a minute, I'll come back to it. Don't do that, because sometimes you might not be able to get back to that. You won't be able to build that foundation as strongly as you can now. This is the time to do it. It's a wonderful time, and I just challenge you guys to do that, because it's so important. I wish I could, and you've probably heard it, and that's the sign when you're getting old, when you hear people say, man, I wish I could go back and do that again. Man, I wish I could go back and do that again. I mean, that's really, there's some things that I would really like to alter, you know, and take a little bit more time and delve into them a little bit more intensely. So that's my challenge to you guys. I think the other thing for you guys is you have to continually pass on the information that you get. It really is an oral tradition. You have to pass this information on. A lot of the material we want to think is in the book, is on the internet. It's not. It comes from me saying, hey, this is what you need to do, you know. Maybe you can use that spoon. You know, you might have to use the spoon in order to get through that. So use this time, use all of your resources, and build that foundation with passion, Now, before I even go any further, any questions so far? Yes?
How much does the base cost?
I'm sorry?
How much does the base cost?
How much does the base cost? Well, this particular instrument is about $18,000. So it can get quite expensive, and so I had to be very passionate about it in order to purchase this. But I mean, you can get instruments from a myriad of prices, and but the one thing that's good about most of the wood instruments is that they appreciate as opposed to depreciate. So probably in about 5 years, it won't be a lot, but it'll probably be worth about 20,000. Yes.
Are you gonna play it?
I will. I'll get to it. Yes. Any other questions so far? Yes. Prayer is always good. And I mean that really about everything in life. But I tell you, for me, my music has kept me out of trouble, it's kept me alive, it's kept me here, and it has afforded me many opportunities that I probably otherwise would not have had. I've been able to travel the world many times. I've seen so many beautiful things. I've seen some horrendous things also in my travels, but the reason why I was able to travel like I have is because of my music. I think you have to be, again, very passionate about it. You have to have that stick-to-itiveness. There are a lot of distractions, and it's easy to get caught up. And one of the things that we in our society today get caught up in is, are we really trying to be an artist, a musician, or are we trying to be a star? Because we have so many reality TV shows and so many star-type shows that it takes away sometimes from actually learning the craft. So you have to have that fortitude to really stick to it. Sometimes that means, guys, particularly people in the arts, we sometimes may have to say, Mom, Dad, I know you say I need a job, you know, and the gig at JCPenney's is going to pay, but I really want to do this music thing. I really want to do this art thing. And that's something that we really have to really stick to because it's very difficult. Now, I don't think that we can, as musicians, the majority of us, I don't think we will ever become the rich and famous. We can't. Those are the exceptions, the rich and famous. Those are the exceptions. But we can have a very good, honest living and be very satisfied with what we do. You know, just being able to share our experiences musically. And remember that everything in the arts is a direct reflection of what's happening in society. I mean, when we go back to looking at, for instance, the bebop era in jazz. The bebop era in jazz was the era where we lost the masses. We had just come out of the swing era. The swing era was the era where all of the music was the popular music. So if you cut the radio on in the 30s, you would hear Duke Ellington and Count Basie as opposed to hearing Beyonce and Snoop Dogg like on the award show last. I have no idea what he was doing last night. And then, you know, okay, that's another story. Okay, but it's cool. It's cool. So you know that was the popular music, the swing era. But when we got to the bebop era, that was the era where everybody said, "Oh, that music is terrible. It's decadent. You know, people are listening to this music." And it's just bad music. It's evil, you know. And that's not really what was happening. In actuality, what was happening, the musicians had gotten tired of just playing music just for dances. They wanted to really become that doctor, where they really wanted to delve into the insides and the outer realms of the music, and they wanted to really learn and study and expound on the music. But what happened? Of course, we started pushing the envelope even more. And then, you know, it became brain overload. Music became much faster, notey, lots of notes. Some people said frantic and anxious. And in actuality, we were just really trying to express ourselves. We wanted to make sure that we could, what we felt inside, we could let that out. But, you know, we turned some of the people off. So, you know, keeping in line with that, I think we have to do that. That's why you really have to be, you have to stick to your guns. As honor students, you know, and I mean, you guys know the story. You know, you're going to have other students, other friends, other people, other family members, you know, coming over here. You know, man, come on, man, let's go hang out tonight, man. Well, you know you need to be studying that biochem exam, you know? You got that tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. Hey, man, I can't go down and tell you to get that burger tonight. Bring me one back, you know? It's cool. You can still have it, but, you know, bring it back, you know? And that's you really have to have that stick to it. That's a long answer. That's cool. Yes? Okay. How I met Ray Charles. I did my first gig with Ray Charles when I was 16 years old. I was 16 years old, and so it wasn't that long after that elementary school experience. But I played my first performance with I call him Mr. C. And guys, believe me, I tell you, when we call him the genius, he really was a genius. I mean, he could hear everything, see. I think the man wasn't blind, to tell you the truth. And first gig I did with was at the Carter Barron Amphitheater in Washington, D.C., outdoor, outside theater. And what had happened was I was playing in the orchestra. I was playing bass. I was playing principal bass in the orchestra. This was the orchestra. His band was traveling, and he'd come into D.C. to play and do his performance. So what would happen is, it still happens today with a lot of the artists, when they pick up the orchestras, what they'll do is they'll come in with their band, and they've already rehearsed, they have their material together, everything is good, and they come into a town, they come into Greenville, North Carolina, and they call and they say, hey, D, I need an orchestra, I need 12 string players, I need a brass section, and so forth and so on, and can you recommend me the players, or it's a union gig. So I was part of the union at the time. I had my musician's union card when I was 14, I think, and so I got called to do the gig, and what had happened was his bass player had been hanging out the night before. His bass player that was playing electric bass with him, and he messed up and missed some stuff, and he was really high. That's really what was happening. He was high. back in the dressing room, we couldn't go on. And but Mr. C, people paid to hear him, so they were like, well, you got to play. He said, okay, cool, let's go. And he said, what's the young man right there? What's his name? I don't know, how you see me over there? You know? And he said, in actuality, what he was saying, whoever the principal bass player is, that's who I need to play the bass book. So, you know, fortunately, I had learned how to read now in my music. So they called me up, and I sat down. I had to read his book that show, and that was how that relationship developed. We started, and we kept in touch over the years. And then I went on the road with him. So I actually played with him up until the time that he passed. And funny story along that line, I played on and off with him. And I did his big band, I did his small group stuff, and then I did his symphony stuff too. And the symphony stuff is what would happen. He would carry his drummer, his guitar player, bass player, and his orchestral conductor. And we would fly into different cities, towns, countries, and we would go in, and the symphony orchestra music was sent ahead. The orchestra would look at the music, and then we'd come in, we would have a sound check, and then we would play the concert that night. And then we'd fly out and go out and play. And you know, we might do Tampa Symphony tonight, and then we'd be in Greenville tomorrow night, and you know, and so it was a lot of fun. That gig that I did with him when I was 16, we had the rehearsal because I was reading. I made some notations on the charts while I was playing, so I could see certain things. I knew certain things I needed to do. Everything was cool. Ironically, later on in life, and this was really interesting. I was 16 then, and I would say I joined the faculty here at ECU when I was 28 years old, and he had the athletic department actually had Ray Charles and his big band come to Greenville, and he said, Carroll is there, and I had played with him in other situations. Everything was cool up before that time, but he said, Carroll is there, so he said, make sure that, you know, Carroll knows that I'm coming, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, cool. So we were there. And while he was here, he said, man, he said, I really need you to come out with me and do some stuff. He said, just for a little short run. And I said, okay. And I think this was like October or something. And he said, okay, well, I'm going to let you know. And I said, okay, cool, it's cool. So I got the call from him 2 days later, and he said, I want you to join me in the band in Germany in a week or so. And so I got a leave of absence from the university and went out, met him in Germany, and played. Everything was cool. It was a good time. Then maybe about 2 years later, you know, we had notations in the music now where we've gone from handwriting to script to computerized music and computerized notation. So I was actually playing with Maceo Parker. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that name. Maceo Parker is the saxophone player that you see Prince. He features quite a bit. And he's actually right down the street, lives in Kinston, North Carolina. And which is very cool. So anyway, we were out and we were doing a tour with Mr. C. And this shows why you have to have that passion too, because this particular tour we were on, we did 38 countries in 42 days. So we were moving constantly. And he had a bass player, Mr. C had a bass player that was with him, that was kind of doing the same thing that the bass player did way back in the day. And at the end of the gigs where we were playing, this bass player was like closing the bars down. And we would leave him in the bar. And his name was Ray also. And I even said to him, I said, Ray, man, you need to stop, man. You know, you're gonna mess up. Eventually you're gonna mess up. Say, no man, I got it. No man, I got it. So we were actually playing, and he messed up on the gig, but he was still on the gig. It was still his gig. He closed the bar down that night, and we left the country, not the town, we moved out the country. And we ended up going to North Sea Jazz Festival. And I was on stage with Maceo, and we were playing, and in Maceo's band, I had on like black MC Hammer pants and a bright orange t-shirt and a polka dot vest. And I think I had a bandana, and I was just like out there, I'm just going for it, wristbands, the whole thing. And Mr. C's band is coming right after us, and they're like these ugly brown tuxedos. I mean, they were disgusting. I mean, they even looked disgusting. And so after the show was over, our portion of the show, I was back in the dressing room, and I was actually sitting at the mirror, just sitting there. I was wringing wet, and people were coming in to get my clothes, which was cool. I was glad. And it was, I don't know if you guys ever heard the name Lenny Kravitz. Yeah, Lenny Kravitz was there, and Lenny came in the dressing room, and he was like, "Hey man, how you doing, man? It's good." And I hadn't looked up yet. I'm still, taking stuff off and everything. And he was standing behind me, and he said, "Yeah, man, I really enjoyed your playing, and everything is good." And I said, "Okay, cool, man, cool." I said, "Yeah, man, do you play?" I hadn't looked up, and it was Lenny Kravitz. And he was standing, he was like, "Man, you a fool." And I said, "Man, it's cool," and that was good. And at the time, Mr. C's manager came and got me, and he said, "Mr. C needs to see you right away." I said, "Okay." And I said, "Well, let me get out my clothes." And he said, No, he needs to see you right away." I said, "Okay." So I rushed to his dressing room, and he said, "Carroll," he said, "I need you tonight." And I said, well, what's up?" He said, I need you to play tonight. I said, "Okay." So I still have on all my Maceo Parker stuff, and the rest of the band is in brown tuxedo. And I got my bright orange on, and I sit down, and I pull out the music, and I look down at the music, and I see some of the notations and the notes that I had made when I was 16 years old. And it just, it flipped my mind out. I was like, wow, this is still here. Well, I mean, it's like that story. If you got a hit, hope you love it, because you got to play it every night. So Georgia is one of those tunes that he had to do every night. America the Beautiful is something that he would close his shows with. And but my handwriting was on his music, so I was able to key in on some of these things, and it was very cool. It was very cool, and we had a great time. And the next night we were in Paris, and we had finished our show, and I got to knock on the door again. He said, "Carroll, Mr. C wants to see you," and I got there. And I looked, here's Ray, the bass player. He's standing there like he's outside the principal's office with his head down. He wouldn't even look up at me. Because we're the last country we're in. He had to pay to get to where we were on his own. And they did not tell him, Mr. C did not tell him whether or not he still had the gig or not. And he brought me in the dressing room, and he said, "Carroll," he said, "you helped me out. You saved me on the show last night." He said, "So it's your gig. If you want it, you got it." And he said, "Set your price." I mean, and if I had been like a jerk, I could have just set some enormous, stupid price. But it was, it was Mr. C. And I said, "No." And I said, "Well, the man's got it. He's got kids at home and all that." I said, "So, I said, I'm going to be with you, so if anything happens, everything is cool. But let him go on." And the rest of the band, everybody went on. And they did not tell him until just before Mr. C went on that he was still doing the gig. He didn't know. And I couldn't look at the guy when I came out the dressing room. But those real life stories. I've been very fortunate, very blessed to have performed with a lot of different artists. And as I said, and it has to do with the passion and being excited about it. It's the same way I am with my students in my classes. If you see any of my classes, they'll tell you, man, the big black man is crazy. He's jumping up and down, running around the room, pacing, and messing with this. But I talk about the mamas, the daddies, and everything. But it's all in love, because it's all about the music. And again, the music and the art is a direct reflection of what's happening in society. And I mean, lots of experiences. I can share. We were talking about one of the bases. The bases cost us so much. We were in Germany at one point, and the base is in a flight case sitting on the platform. And the train comes through the station, and zips through, and the backdraft from the train swoops the base up off of the platform. Base goes up into the sky, falls down, boom, and explodes in the case. You know, all different. Yeah, it's stupid. It's stupid. You know, but it's fun. It's enjoyable. I've seen some of the most beautiful places in the world. One of the most beautiful things that I ever saw was nothing more than a babbling brook and a stream coming down the mountains in Austria. I mean, we were winding on the train. I mean, it was just, I mean, you know, people talk about it as being breathtaking. I mean, it really was. Norway, at one point, the snow was just crystal clear, just beautiful. I mean, it looked like one of the things that you would see in a movie. I mean, it was just really, really beautiful. Had the opportunity to meet many different people. I almost knocked Rosalind Carter, President Carter's wife, down the steps of the Kennedy Center. She was zooming with Secret Service, and I was zooming, coming down, and we just boom, almost hit. You know, Secret Service is like, stop in the name of love, you know. I'm like, all right, you ain't got to worry, all right, you know, it's cool, you know. You know, it's cool. I was talking about Snoop Dogg. I've had this. Sometimes I say pleasure, sometimes I say, you know, I've had the opportunity to experience Snoop Dogg in all his glory, and you know, but actually he's really a nice guy. Had the opportunity to I just recently, every year, I guess for the last, I don't know, probably 15 years, I am a conductor and a arranger and assistant conductor for the Congressional Black Caucus, which is something that's very, very important for me, because all of the black congressmen and senators, when they congregate, they have a big convention caucus. And so I have been the conductor for that each year. I actually just did that at the end of September this year. And you know, so it's a lot of opportunities. You know, Whitney Houston. One gig that I always said that I wanted to do that I never got to do was Michael Jackson's gig. But Michael Jackson's musical director, Michael Bearden, is a very close friend of mine, and I'll share a story with you. The night that Michael Jackson died, I spoke to Michael Bearden like the next day, and I said, "Hey man," I said, "You okay? Because I know, you know, you guys were in rehearsal. They were in rehearsal, getting ready to go out on the big tour, this last tour that he was going to do." And he said, "Yeah, Carroll," he said, "Man, I don't know, man." He said, "You know," and contrary to what a lot of the media reported about him, you know, being, you know, he was worn down. He said, Carroll, he said Mike was wiping all of those young dancers. He said he was wiping them out. He said they were just completely blown away. And in fact, he said Mike Bearden was the last person to see him that night that he died after rehearsal, because Michael Jackson had him blocked in and he couldn't get out, so he waited for him. And he said the last thing he said to him, he said, "Man, how do you feel? Man, how do you feel about it?" He said, "I really feel good about it." He said, I'm really good. And the thing that Michael Jackson used to say always, Mike Bearden said, "Okay, man, I'll see you tomorrow. I love you." And he said, "Man, I love you more." That's the last thing he said to him. You know, so that was one of those special moments. Michael Bearden is also the guy who's a musical director. He did the music for the video movie This Is It. I don't know if anybody's seen that before. Okay, well, he did all of the music for that, and you know, so it was very, very cool. I'm out with Jay Leno. No, he's gone now. You know, I'm waiting for Jimmy to call, and you know, we'll be all right. You know. Any more questions? You guys ready to go get the pizza now? Huh? Yeah, no, there's no pizza there. So no more questions. No more questions. Well, I always thought that I was going to be a football player for the Washington Redskins, and that didn't work out, so I ended up at ECU, and you know, and I've had a great time, you know, and I've enjoyed this time with you guys, you know, which is really cool. No more questions? Yes.
What's your favorite piece of work?
You know, there's so many. If you are at my house, and I still old school, I'm using CD players as opposed to iTunes and everything. But I'll say on my playlist, I put on shuffle. I mean, so you might hear Shania Twain, Snoop Dogg, back to back, the London Symphony. It's just no tell. But I mean, good quality, no matter. And there is good quality in everything. Anything else? Well, I'm going to play a little piece for you. I have no idea what it's going to be at this point. I'm just going to make it up. And this is the 2014 Honors College Lecture Series number 2, Composition. This is one of my babies, and which is cool. As I said, I came up playing classically. I had the opportunity to play with the Boston Pops and the Washington Philharmonic Orchestra, and and again a lot of different people. And I started out classical, and when I went to Tanglewood, which was the summer home of the Boston Symphony, and it's one of those things where we talk about it. It's not fair, but it is what it is. You know, as a black male, and anybody watch Scandal? I watch Scandal. You guys watch Scandal. There was a scene in the show where Daddy Pope, who was talking to Olivia, and they were having this conversation, and she was saying, "Yeah, now you're going to tell me that as a black, I have to be twice as good, twice as fast, so forth and so on, in order to just be considered on an equal playing field." And I have to tell you, as a black male in academia at East Carolina University in the South, but just not in the South, just not those parameters, but in general, it's something that is very true. You have to really, but again, that goes back to that passion, having that stick-to-itiveness and really focusing, because you're going to find those obstacles. And I've had to do that. When I went to Tanglewood, I was one of 2 blacks out of a 90-piece orchestra and 108 voice choir. And I had a great time. But I had to really hump, and where some of the other musicians had their own instruments. They had purchased their instruments and had these fabulous instruments, and I was playing on a borrowed bass, and I had like a little plastic case, which was cool. But I just went on, and it was one of my teachers told me when I went up there. She said, now because you've been playing principal here, don't necessarily expect to be playing principal when you go up there. You'll probably be toward the back of the section. And I said, well, why is that? She said, well, some of the other people that are going to be there have had a little better opportunity than you did. So I said, okay, well, that's where I got very passionate again. And I was in the practice room, I was shanding and everything. Everything was cool, and I was working, and I was busting my butt. I was like, man, I'm going. I'd come out, and then, and I'd go out, play football, then come back. I'm still going to be a Redskin, but I'm practicing. I went out and did the auditions, and I made principal chair. And then I got the opportunity to play the cruise Boston Symphony. And that was because of that passion and that stick to it. So again, that's my challenge to you. So anyway, going back to this piece, this is a little piece that is a combination of everything. This piece is just for the class here, or the lecture series. So this is it. I have no idea what it is. speaking of that, anybody like cartoons? Okay, I know they're taking them off TV now, but remember Charlie Brown?
Yeah.
Christmas time is here and all of that?
Yeah.
Okay, remember the teacher in Charlie Brown? That's what it is. It's a string bass doing that, doing an arco on the things. And then you hear the seagulls. You hear that a lot of times. That's what the seagulls are. That's what the sound is. I can't do it on here, but you can hear the foghorns. This one won't do it. But if you play the bottom, the tail piece, it'll actually sound like a foghorn. So you know, stupid stuff. But anyway, this is just a little bit of something here. Some stuff on there. That I was fascinated with, you know, and coming from arco with the viola and the violin. And then, as I said, I really got into playing the jazz stuff with pizzicato or with the fingers. Yeah, you can snap. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, you know. And you know, as a bass player, we're not supposed to be able to play, you know, play fast because it's bass, right? You know, the bass, and we're thinking about the tuba, we're woo, 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 right? Bass players not supposed to do that, but you know, you can play a little faster. And then you play faster. Talking about singing a little bit earlier, practicing and practicing and practicing my scales, you know. Do, do, right? And then practicing and practicing, being passionate about it. You sing what you play. There's a young man, I mentioned his name a little bit earlier, So if you happen to go to any of his shows after, well, let's say 2015, maybe February on, you might see the big black man standing up there with him a little bit. I'm not gonna have those MC Hammer pants on, but you know, but I like the orange. I might have the orange T-shirt on, but you know, so you check out Prince if you get an opportunity to. Okay, and but it's a lot of fun. And again, I'm here for you. You guys, anytime you see me on campus, please feel free to stop. Hey D, what's up, man? You know, it's cool. You know, a lot of titles thrown around, but you know, for me and to you guys, I'm D. So you can just say, D, what's up? You know, it's cool. You know, and you know, just home. Okay? Cool. I'm done, guys. That's this. Y'all